Hello, everyone, and welcome to At Barron's. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Dave Roux, longstanding tech executive and tech investor, co-founder and co-CEO of Silver Lake, one of the largest technology private equity firms in the world, and now co-managing director of a new private equity firm, Baypine. Dave, nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
So let's start off with Baypine, and why don't you tell us a little bit about this company, $3 billion of assets under management. What is the conceit behind this new company, Dave?
Conceit and the concept are core economy companies increasingly need help developing, implementing, and really benefiting from technology investment. Said another way, we've set the firm up to help non-technology businesses develop technology strategies to improve their performance.
Right, and why do you see this as a need? I mean, aren't American companies steeped in technology, Dave?
Not quite. We've been through, over the last 30 or 40 years, a huge increase in the visibility of technology in our economy. Think of semiconductors, computers, networks, software, mobile phones, social media. And you would think that's a gigantic piece of the US economy, but that's only 10% of GDP all taken together. What's happening now is that technology is seeping out into other core economy sectors. Think consumer, think industrial, think business services, think healthcare. And yet the people who run those businesses, the investors who put money in, the directors who oversee them, aren't typically technology savvy or tech fluent. And yet those management teams realize for them to achieve their full potential over the next 10 years, they're going to need to develop coherent and complementary digital strategies to go with their core business.
Right. Are there any sectors, Dave, that are sort of further ahead or further behind? I mean, you think healthcare's got to be pretty involved in technology, maybe more than, say, an old line one. How does that play out?
You'd be surprised. I would say sectors like finance have been quite forward in their use of technology because they've had to be. Places like healthcare, not so much. Consumer, on the kind of retail side, you can kind of think of e-commerce and the explosion there, fairly forward, but many standard brands, retailers have been slow to adopt and implement. So it really varies a lot by sector.
You say the concept is to bring technology to these core American companies, but part of the concept also is private equity. In other words, you're not just bringing them servers. Why is buying out these companies sort of the best way to go here?
Well, it's a big commitment, and there's no shortage of consulting help out there. Almost every company we talk to has a very high degree of awareness, Andy, about the opportunity. They might know and have heard of digital marketing. They know about enhancing the customer experience. They've heard about instrumenting their supply chain. They've heard about automation in their warehouses. And yet they've done little or none of that. And the reason is that it's really all about execution and implementation. Many of these investments are expensive. They use vendors that aren't familiar. People don't know how much to pay. They don't know how long it will take. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to prioritize. They don't know how to integrate it with things they're already doing. And so what we really bring to the party are all the things that you like about private equity: good sourcing, good diligence, thoughtful balance sheets, good governance, liquidity path planning, plus an in-depth understanding of how technology works. Half of our team are operators, half of them come from private equity backgrounds. And so we like to be in a control situation because we're going to be making a lot of changes with the management team.
What are some ways that companies can best integrate technology into their core functions?
You know, it really depends a lot on the company. We are large investors in a business called Mavis Tire. They have a number of other brands as well. But it's a very straightforward business where this is the place you go if you get a flat tire. This is the place you go where you want your brakes checked. This is the place you go if you want to get some snow tires. But think about how to find out and communicate with customers. Increasingly, that's going to be done online. And so search engine optimization would be a very kind of clear thing to do. And yet that's not top of mind for people who might be tire experts. Makes all the sense in the world if you're a technologist, but if that's not where you come from, that's new news. Second thing that you might want to do is you might want to use technology to help you optimize your operations by understanding when are your busy times, adjusting your staffing, adjusting your inventory. And then the third thing is that you might want to have a different relationship with your customer so that they can check on how the progress is going with their car, do their own scheduling, order things to purchase that can be installed on their vehicle when they're in, and generally check up on their progress when their car is on the, in the bay and being serviced so they know when to come. And all those sound straightforward, but require really thoughtful design and implementation to make them easier to use. Not hard to describe, it's just hard to do.
Okay, that's a great example. I want to pull back and speak to what I think might be part of the genesis of the concept of Bay Pine, and that is the development of new technologies and maybe the lack of really incremental advances in technology that are really useful to the economy. There's been a lot of criticism of Silicon Valley, Dave, that, well, we've created VR, the metaverse, crypto, and an app to track your dog's heart rate and pulse. Has there been kind of a failure of innovation in technology over the past decade or so?
I'm not sure there's a failure, as there might be a fascination with the bleeding edge and some of the farther out innovations, when in fact there's a huge amount of blocking and tackling that has yet to be undertaken. Things as simple as knowing where all of your inventory is, things as simple as providing a way for all of your employees to know when to come to work and how to schedule their time more effectively, so people know when their shift will be and can plan their lives. There's just a huge amount as everybody ends up with, a cell phone. We all have a computer. As networks become more ubiquitous, as the costs of doing any one of these things goes down, it means that we're all connected and that we can increasingly manage our businesses on a much more efficient basis because we know where all the machines are, we know where all the products are, we know where most of our customers are, we know where our employees and our teammates are. And so coordinating that sounds simple, but coordinating all that turns out to be a huge boost in productivity, efficiency, sustainability. All of those things are radically enhanced by adding a little technology to the mix.
All right, I was just disparaging of Silicon Valley, me, not you, Dave.
Pile on.
Having said that, maybe there is a new thing, which is generative AI. And I'm wondering what your take is on generative AI and whether you're looking to implement that into any of the processes for your portfolio companies.
Sure. The answer is that it's hugely important, maybe more so than people appreciate and understand today. But like all of these new technologies, where there's a lot of hype on the front end, it will take a while for the application engineering of the new technology to find its way into products and services. but you can easily imagine really any place where there's a conversation, any place where there's a question, any place where there's a review of text, any place where you need to produce a picture or a graphic. Those are all places where, at least in draft form, right, the first take on it will likely be done by a computer.
Have you thought about how generative AI is going to impact businesses and companies? I mean, like Google and Microsoft, and is this a challenge for them?
Well, like many important technology inflections, it's both a challenge and a big opportunity. I would not say that AI is the same as fire or electricity, but it's probably more important than, or as important as, personal computers and mobile phones and the like have been. And think of how large those technologies have been. I mean, on the challenge side, it's very disruptive to anybody selling anything that's procedural. And by that, I mean, do this, then do that, then do this again, and or. Anytime you have to program a list of things to do and then do, let's say you're selling travel tickets online, or you're writing NDAs at a lawyer's office. Anything that's like that can be routinized, can be done better, faster, cheaper there. If you look at places like Microsoft, it means that they probably need to reimagine what their whole Outlook suite does for business. That's the challenge. But the big opportunity is that they're kind of also ran distant second place search engine. Bing potentially has a huge upside in rewriting the rules and improving their competitive posture versus Google.
You have been an executive on the board of so many tech companies. You were on the board of Seagate and Symantec. You were an executive at Lotus and Oracle. What are some common problems that you see in the C-suite of these companies?
There are kind of two big flavors of problem with technology businesses. One is that you tend to over-focus on the products because they're cool, they're sexy, they're fun, because novelty and invention, is really kind of the mother's milk of the space. And people tend to, in these very rapid moving, highly dynamic markets, underestimate the importance of, and therefore spend less time on, the corresponding business model issues. And so, you might have a great product, but you haven't figured out how to sell it, to whom, for how much, and who your partners are going to be. So that's kind of one thing. The second thing that happens is as the companies get big and successful, is you become hugely invested in not the status quo, but in the technology foundation on which your company sits. And so it's very difficult often to conclude that you need to make a major switch. Intel would be a very good example of that. It was a fabulous company, terrific engineering, and yet on both the product side, they kind of got outflanked by ARM and their smaller, more efficient, more flexible RISC architectures. And on the manufacturing side, kind of got out-developed and out-implemented by TSMC. So both on the design side and then on the manufacturing side, they've lost some important ground. Not unrecoverable, but it's a very good example how a fabulous company with terrific profitability, huge scale, many things going for it, in a sense, got overinvested in what got them there.
Right, and we may be looking at that today with AI, with some of those big firms that need to change their platforms big time.
For sure.
You co-founded Silver Lake in 1999. Did you ever anticipate it would become the juggernaut that it is today?
No, I don't think any of us has good future vision. You know, when you look 10 and 20 years down the line, I think most entrepreneurs are looking a year or two ahead and, you know, hoping to get there and seeing what they see, and then, you know, doing their best to make the next 2 or 3 years good. But, you know, it's a case of being early to a very important market, seeing an extremely large opportunity, and executing pretty well.
Right. And final question, Dave. I know you have a big endeavor to bring technology and jobs to the state of Maine. Can you tell us about that, please?
I have a partnership with Northeastern University, where the president there, Joseph Aoun, has been an early and prominent advocate for the role that artificial intelligence will play in our society and economy. And I approached him, I guess 5 years ago now, about the idea of building a graduate school wholly dedicated to application engineering. In other words, we're not trying to be Carnegie Mellon or Caltech or MIT, but saying, look, we don't need 1,000 more PhDs. We need 100,000 more engineers who can implement AI in our society. And that in the same way that when we were an agricultural society, we had an ag school in every state. You know, when we did manufacturing, we had manufacturing all over the country. We didn't just do it in one place. I think that as we become a real information society, that we need those kind of schools. Think about it just the same way you would a medical school or a dental school or a business school or a law school, professional training for people who are going to use advanced computing, in this case, really AI-based. And so we're putting the first one in Portland, Maine. Happy to say it's up and running. 575 degree students in the second year. I think it's the fastest growing educational institution in the country right now.
Dave Roux, co-managing partner at Baypine. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andy.
You've been watching At Barron's. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll see you next time.